I don't like being in one place for too long.
Mm-hmm.
So the laptop is perfect for me. And also I just use my trackpad to illustrate, so it's even more perfect.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jesse Nyberg Podcast. Today I'm here with Paulina, super talented designer, illustrator. I'm excited to chat with her. How you doing?
I'm good. It's 6 a.m. where I am, no, 7 a.m. So I'm a morning person, so this is the best time for me to do this kind of thing.
That works out then. Yeah, it's so weird. Everyone I talk to, like, especially when they live in other countries, sometimes I think I know what time it is over there, but a lot of the times I don't. Like sometimes they're like, oh, I'm recording, it's midnight. I'm like, well, that's the time that they chose though, you know? So it's always funny. You like in the morning though?
I love the mornings. All my clients, I think everybody's clients are just all over the world. So scheduling gets pretty hectic sometimes. But I prefer early mornings to late at night because sometimes I'll have calls at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And I'm like,
yeah. And that's for US or what?
Yeah, most of people I work with are in the US. So
yeah. And where are you at right now?
The Philippines, Asia.
Oh, okay. And I saw you talking a little bit from talking to you on Instagram and just seeing your stories. It seems like you've been kind of traveling all around, like over the place. What have you kind of been up to?
Well, since the pandemic started in 2020, I've been in one place. I was in the US. I was stuck there for a year or so. And then after that, I came home to the Philippines, and then I've been here. But then this year, everything started loosening up. So
yeah.
I went back to the States just to visit some family, to do some just visiting people, family and friends. I went to the Bahamas as well. So, and I have a lot more travels coming up this year. I think my family and I are just excited that there are no more restrictions. So
yeah,
a lot of that this year, thankfully.
When you were, like you said, you were stuck over here, were you trying to leave and then you weren't allowed to for like that whole year pretty much?
Kind of. Well, so I lived in the US since 2018. I studied there from 2018 to 2020. And then 2020 to 2021, I wasn't sure whether I was going to stay or leave. But then I ended up staying because COVID was just a little bit crazy. So I ended up staying.
What was it like? Because you're from the Philippines, you said originally, right?
Yeah.
What was it like when you first moved from there to New York? Was it pretty like culture shocking?
Not really, mostly because I'm used to traveling a lot my whole life. I've been, visiting other countries, and it wasn't the first time I had been in New York. I'd been there when I was a child, and I have a lot of family and friends in the US, so I visited a bunch of times. So it wasn't really a big change. It was a little bit faster paced than life here for sure, but then that's what I like. I'm drawn to the city and the pace of, the city. So it was good. I miss it.
Even your setup right now, like, it looks like you're up in like a high rise or something. It looks very New York, Chicago-esque from the background.
Well, yeah, I'm in Manila, which is the capital city of the Philippines. It's kind of a business district. This is where I live. So yeah, I'm on the 45th floor.
Damn. Yeah, I always I have a couple friends that live in like super tall buildings like that out here, and it seems like kind of a hassle just to do normal things like bring up their groceries and all that shit going all the way up there.
It can be a bit of a hassle, but then it's convenient too because since it's business district, everything is really packed, everything's close by, so it's not that bad. I'd rather walk to get my groceries than have to drive to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not complaining.
Yeah, for sure. You went to school originally for like fashion design, right?
Yeah. So first I got my bachelor's here in the Philippines, and then I worked a bit, and then I moved to New York to do a degree in fashion, but I didn't end up pursuing it.
Yeah. What made you kind of like drop out or whatever and pursue like the stuff that you're kind of more into now?
So I did graduate. I finished the entire degree. It was a 2-year program at Parsons. I finished it and then I graduated in 2020. But then the pandemic hit. I had like a job lined up. I had a job on the table, but then they rescinded the offer because everything was shutting down because of COVID. I didn't know what to do because, you know, my visa status was reliant on whether I had a job in fashion or not. So I took an internship while just trying to figure out whether I wanted to stay in the industry, whether it was still worth it, because all these companies were folding. Fashion was doing really badly. And I was like, do I really want to spend my life in this industry that's, you know, it doesn't hold up. If there's a global crisis, fashion is one of the first industries to plummet. So I was like, I need some sort of stability, but I didn't know what to do. But then since I have a background in graphic design, that's what I did for my first bachelor's. I decided, you know, I'd been doing freelance a little bit on the side here and there, just on the side. So I thought, you know, maybe I should make art every day and post it because I have nothing else to do. I'm broke. Like I have no job. Like I'm stuck at home. Might as well just do something productive and practice. So I ended up doing that. And yeah, I posted consistently every single day, and before I knew it, I gained traction and all these people started coming to me for projects, and now I am a freelancer.
Yeah, that's interesting because, I mean, yeah, going to the school, like that's such a, Parsons is like, at least the way I hear people talk about it, you know, like a very highly regarded school and some place that people want to go to. And to think that like, even with that degree, that's how bad COVID was, you know, like you could have one of the like really nice degrees and still if an industry gets like affected like that, you're kind of screwed. So it's good that you were able to like be quick on your feet like that though, and come up with the backup plan pretty easily.
It wasn't. Yeah, it seems easy now that I, you know, think about it, look back on it, put it into perspective. It seemed like the most obvious choice, but obviously when you're in that situation where you don't know what to do, you don't have money, you need like a job, you need money like now, it's scary. It's scary. I was definitely not at my best at the time, but yeah, I'm glad I made that decision.
Do you think, like other than, you know, like the pandemic or if things like if other opportunities came your way in that field, like do you think you'll pursue that stuff in the future at all, or are you kind of just going to stick with more like graphic design and art stuff?
You mean fashion? If I got an opportunity? No, I am never going back. Never. Like it's so great being able to work remote, like from wherever I am. I can go wherever I want and not have that interrupt my workflow. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like I realized too that I don't respond well to authority. Having a boss just makes me like, it makes my blood I hate doing things for other people because I'm told to, like, no. So this is the best.
I mean, yeah, then it was kind of like, even though it was a bad situation, it seems like it's for the better overall. I'm the same way. I really, not very, I guess I don't respond well either to like, not authority. Like I don't mind working under someone, but a lot of times when you're in these positions where it's like this really big power structure and you're lower at the bottom, a lot of the stuff can feel like when you don't agree with what they're saying, it's a lot harder to want to do like these tasks that take you like 12 hours or whatever. And it's very stressful.
And all these projects tend to take, you know, longer than you'd like, longer than you'd normally spend if you were doing it on your own.
Right. Have you heard it too? I feel like there's this theory. I forget what it's called. I'll have to remember. I'll throw up a text of what it's called, but it's basically this idea that a task will take you the amount of time that you like allow for it. Right. So if you say like this illustration or this design or this thing's going to take me 4 hours, you can probably get it done in 4 hours. But if you allow yourself all day, you're going to sit around all day working on it and it's going to probably end up looking similar, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like in, you know, more corporate industries, like an 8-hour workday is always funny to me because you're not even really working that whole time. Like it's just all these meetings and like people bothering you, and like the way that I feel like that system's set up doesn't really allow for people to thrive and like work and focus for like long periods of time, because you're always having to like, they're like, it's like you're getting babysat in a way. Like you're always having to tell people what you're doing and like update them on every little thing. And it kind of kind of fucks up like the whole process, you know?
Yeah, it definitely kills creativity. Sitting in an office, especially, just in that environment where everything's white and all the lights are white and you have like all these cubicles and you feel so claustrophobic. It's not good for the creative brain.
Yeah. And that's like you were saying too, you wouldn't have been able to do probably a lot of the things you did if you weren't able to work like wherever, since you were moving all around and everything. So you mostly just use like a laptop then? So you're mobile like that?
Yeah, as much as I want to get like a whole desktop set up with a keyboard and everything that lights up, like it looks super cool, but I'm just always moving around. Like I don't like being in one place for too long. So the laptop is perfect for me. And also I just use my trackpad to illustrate, so it's even more perfect.
Yeah. I know, it's so impressive. I
Thank you.
I don't use the laptop much anymore. I'm mainly just, especially since COVID happened, I built a computer and it's like I wasn't able to go anywhere anyway with the laptop. So my point is though, I haven't used the trackpad in so long, but that was the first thing I wanted to upgrade. Like just having a mouse is so nice. So whenever I hear people illustrate without a tablet or just the trackpad, like it's super impressive. This stuff's hard.
I feel like I'm psychotic for not like getting a proper tablet. But it's just I'm so used to it. I'm a creature of habit. It's just easy for me. So
I know it's funny because I feel like it's human nature to, even if you know something would be like an upgrade and you just have to spend a little bit of time to like switch, it's so much easier just to stay in like your zone, and do it how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is I've noticed this on, I think you did a live with them in like the article, and it's in your bio, so it says like you're represented by the H plus creative thing, and I was curious a little bit to ask you about like what is that, and like what do they do for you as an artist basically, and like how does it work having like an actual a representation like that?
So H Plus Creative is this design firm. I think they're based in LA, and it was founded by Hannah Stauffer. And the agency basically represents artists. And what that means is they act as kind of a middleman between me and my client. So clients will either approach me or approach Hannah with a project. And if they approach me, I'll bring the project to Hannah, and she basically manages the project, and she makes sure we get like paid a good amount, and at the end of the project we get paid, they get paid, and it all works out. So they have a bunch of connections, or they've kind of established themselves as like a pretty reputable design firm that has all these artists under their roster. So clients come to them asking for work from whoever is in their roster, and then we do the project together and everyone gets their pay. That's it. It's great.
So since they have that network, like having to share some of the budget with the agency, it kind of balances out since they're bringing you a lot more work than you would find like on your own pretty much.
Yeah definitely.
It's nice too, huh, not to deal with the actual like the money shit.
I know, like all the paperwork and all the admin stuff. I hated all that. And then at first when they came to me, like they told me how much what percentage of the pay they were getting, and at first I was kind of scared, but then their initial asking rate is so much higher than I was ever charging when I was independent. So it doesn't even, it's kind of negligible even, because they do all the work for me. All I have to do is say yes to a project, and the bigger the project, the more hands-on they are in terms of helping me get the deliverables over, communicate with the client, making sure everything's in place. So it's so worth it, and I'm so happy that they approached me to want to represent me.
That's cool. Yeah, because I've heard, not with this company specifically, but I've heard mixed reviews from some people saying like it's worth it. Sometimes they feel like they don't, it's not worth it or whatever. But that seems cool because for myself, I don't do that. And I handle all the contracts and emails and whatnot. And sometimes I feel like that can get in the way of you and the client becoming like a friend, because sometimes I like these people and they like my designs and we work together, but then when there's all this money and stuff involved, it's a lot weirder to be like talking casually, you know, at a different point in time, because then the next email you're like, all right, where's my money at, you know, and you have to like the agency, you let them be like the bad guy, you know, in a way, and you could be like all cool on the other side of it or whatever.
Yeah, like I'm so grateful that I'm with H Plus, because they're so firm about, you know, getting everything together and making sure all the steps are in place before anything starts. Like they're so firm about the rate, about the schedule, about the timeline, everything. So yeah, I'm so lucky.
Yeah, it seems like they are they the ones that got you some of those like bigger editorial jobs, like the Vogue and stuff like that?
I think with Vogue they approached me directly, yeah, and then I handed them over to H Plus. But then a bunch of the others did come from H
You
Plus.
did a project with Nike, right? Those illustrations of the Air Maxes.
Yes.
Yeah, that stuff's
was
cool.
H Plus too. Thank you. Yeah.
Your style, I feel like, aids well to like editorial design, because it's usually doesn't incorporate a lot of like typography or anything. So the image is just like a accent to whatever the article is. So it lets it shine without being like too distracting, because it's not like an infographic or anything, you know, it's just like a nice like visual candy to look at next to like probably some article that has like hella words and shit right next to it.
Yeah, I think it works well too, because I'm a very visual person. Everything in my, like every single stimulus that comes into my brain gets converted into like an image or a color or some sort of visual thing. So it's not so easy, but then it's easier for me to translate words into images than for me to put together something that involves typography and putting a message out there using actual words, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a very visual person, so it all works out. Also, typography has never been my strong suit. Like, I've always sucked at it, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people I think designers and artists get into this habit sometimes of like comparing themselves to other people, and sometimes I'll look at your work, right, and I'll be like, holy shit, like I wouldn't say I would never be able to, but I would never put in the time to learn how to illustrate like that and put in the work and like master gradients. And then you think, oh, these people are better, or other people compare themselves to me or whatever, but everyone has something that they're super good at, you know, and then everyone has something they struggle with. And I think it's better to just focus on what you're already good at and get better and better and better at that, instead of trying to improve like all the things that you don't really care about, you know?
That's so true. I always look at like you and other people who are so good at type, and I'm like, I wish I could do that. Like, I think, you know, I'd be 10 times more successful if I could do type, if I could do animation. But, you know, I feel like if I try to spread myself out and do all these things at once, like I won't get anywhere.
Right.
Unless I really double down and spend like, I don't know, a month getting really, really good at all this stuff. But honestly, who has the time? Nobody has a whole month.
Right. It's hard enough to find like one thing that you are really good at, you know, you might as well just like double down on it. When did you first kind of like learn and get into the style of like that you use with gradients? And was there like a moment that you felt like you discovered this specific like way of working that kind of changed the trajectory of your style as like an artist?
Yeah, so I used to do are you familiar? I don't know if, I'm sure you've seen like the flat editorial style where it's outlined in black and they don't really use a lot of gradients, just solid colors. That used to be my style. But then I thought like, this is cute, but I want to add some sort of dimension. So I just, you know, played around with Illustrator. And this was all last year, around 2021, when I had just started doing art every day. I was experimenting I started with that line work kind of style. And then
yeah, I'm trying to scroll back and take a look at some stuff.
I discovered that you could use the gradient mesh. I don't remember how exactly I came across that function, how I discovered that tool, but I found it and I was like, wait, this is so cool. And then I started, you know, I started with the orbs. If you can see a lot of my early work, like the posters, they have a lot of orbs in them, like just gradient orbs all over the place. That's how I started. That's how I got used to controlling my gradients. And then I just started doing that. Like I started expanding into other shapes. I did hearts. I did, like hands. When I started with the hands, it took me so long to figure out like how to create a shaded hand using the gradient mesh. And then I just became obsessed. I looked for all these tutorials on how to control it, like what other things I could do to improve, like where to put the shadow and where the highlight sits, and how to just control the shape using that tool. And it's that's what I've been doing since then. And then I just fell in love with it. I really love the gradient mesh, so I've been doing that ever since.
Yeah, that's and what you're saying about the orbs is kind of similar to like, if you start doing art and stuff, like you're gonna start with the sphere, and drawing the shadows and the highlights and everything. It's crazy because I didn't even know about that tool much either until I seen you and a few other people like use it in this specific, like kind of your style is kind of reminiscent of like some of the like 80s like airbrush kind of stuff that was created with like a different medium, of course, but it's weird how like it's able to be done with like a tool, rather than like the old school way. But I watched your tutorial. I think it was on like TikTok or something like 6 months ago. And I was like, oh, that's how they do it. I always wondered. I was like, cause it looks, it's so smooth. You're like, how does that even happen?
Yeah. I didn't think it was possible on Illustrator because Illustrator is just, I don't know, you won't think that kind of shading style would be possible with a vector software, but it's so powerful. Like the gradient mesh mimics like real life shading and light. It's amazing. You just have to.
And it allows it to like remain like very editable, huh? Because you can still go in and change. That's cool. Yeah, because I don't use Illustrator for anything like that. Like if anything, it's like the opposite. It's stuff that's flat, and then I bring it into Photoshop and stuff. Yeah, have you ever experimented with like any of the 3D softwares at all?
I watched a tutorial for Blender, the donut one that everybody watches.
Right.
And I started, but I never got into it. I mean, I haven't given it a chance, to be completely honest. I haven't given it a chance, but I probably will one of these days when I find the motivation. But right now, I'm pretty set on using Illustrator.
I always want to get into it, but I'm very like just adding that next plane is very intimidating to me. Like it took me long enough to find how to do shit flat. So.
It's so new. It's like a completely new workflow, new shortcuts, new process. It's like, I don't know how long that's going to take to learn. And how when you're learning something new, you have to do it consistently. Otherwise you forget. So you have to be doing it like every single day, even if just little by little. So.
And do you ever feel like, I feel this way sometimes, like I in no way think that I'm like this person that's accomplished all these things or anything. However, I do feel like sometimes now that I try to be free, but I still hold myself to like a certain standard. And since I have like specific styles that I like to work in, I feel like sometimes if I start something new, I'm almost like I wouldn't be able to post shit because I would be like too embarrassed for like a year until I figure out how to actually use it,
Yeah, I feel that way too. Like people say you should just post whatever you accomplished during the day, but then I don't know, I'm scared. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because not everything turns out nice, which we shouldn't be worried about, honestly, because not every single piece is going to turn out a masterpiece.
That's true.
And we shouldn't be afraid, but at the same time, I'm afraid. So.
What brought the emphasis for you on like the eyeballs? When did that start and why?
I genuinely do not know. I've been fascinated with eyeballs, like drawing eyes. I think everybody goes, like all artists go through a phase where they're just sketching eyes. Like in class, they draw like a really detailed eyeball. I don't know. I was definitely one of those people. And I don't know, the shape is just so fascinating to me. It's literally a ball that lives in your head. And it's pretty. It can be blue, it can be green, brown, black, whatever. And then like when you pull it out of the socket, there's this like beautiful red like membrane thing attached to it. It's just visually so pretty. And an eyeball just it's piercing. It stares at you. So I like that. I honestly don't know where it started.
When I first saw your eyeball, it always reminded me of have you seen like the Neversoft logo? Have you seen that before?
I don't think so.
So there was like, like the Tony Hawk video games.
Mm-hmm.
So they used to have a logo in the intro. It was Neversoft, and it would be like they'd animate it in different ways, and the end would always be the eyeball, and something would stab through it, and it was just like super intense.
I'm looking at it right now. Yep.
Yeah. So I always think of that when I see your little picture on the stories or whatever. I saw you updated the color recently too, huh? It's like dark mode now.
Yeah. This time I think it's an animal's eyeball because nobody has a pupil that massive and nobody has gold eyes
Sober,
as far as I know. So yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying it out. I kind of like it. It's a nice change, but I'll eventually go back to the old eyeball.
Recently, I've seen the stuff you're referencing. Like you've done like a few of them with these kind of mythological-esque like creatures that are kind of combined in different anatomies. But I've also noticed that the background is like isolated, a lot more simple, as well as the color palette is like a lot more analogous and just kind of in this like rose kind of flavoring. Yeah. What is there a reason you kind of are moving in that direction, at least for the time being?
I've been seeing a lot of medieval manuscripts where they do these opulent illustrations and sketches of like gargoyles and these weird creatures, like these medieval fantastical beasts and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're always set on parchment paper, so the background is kind of yellow and gritty. And I really wanted to emulate that. I got so inspired by all the illustrations from that period that I've been seeing lately. So I wanted to do my own version of it. And obviously pink is my favorite color, so that's the color I chose. And I feel like using one color rather than the multiple that I've been using in my previous work. One color just brings everything together, makes you concentrate on it more. And that paired with the plain background just gives it a little more visual impact. So it's a nice direction. It's a nice switch from where I was before, where I just use every single color on the spectrum in one piece, which is fun. Yeah. It's fun, but this is a nice new direction. It keeps things fresh because after a while, I think this is true for a lot of designers and artists. You get tired of your own work after a while and you want something new.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good direction for me for now.
Yeah, it also proves that the subject matter and the way that you're creating things like compositionally still holds up, and it's not reliant on like color being like some of these creatures could probably still look good in black and white, because you still have the proper shading and like everything's very, it's like you got all the complexity from your older stuff and try to pack it into like that one shape pretty much.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I agree. I'm always like so like I'm impressed by people that could do like the same thing over and over and over, but I'm also like curious how they don't get like bored, because I always like find something that works, and then right when it's like working, I'm like, I gotta do something else. I'm already bored of it.
Yeah, that is me too every day, because I still try to create something every day. And I would be lying if I said I didn't get bored or if I didn't run out of ideas. Every day it's in the back of my mind, like, what am I going to make today? What am I going to make? Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's so difficult. So yeah, it just takes practice.
I saw you talking about getting like some of your stuff stolen, or at least like digitally or whatever. How does that happen often to you? And like, is that super frustrating?
When it happens like it did the last time with that big that international supermodel that posted my work, that is frustrating. That is definitely frustrating, because they're so big, and it's like they have little to no regard for who created the work. They're just posting it as a free marketing tool, and that's definitely frustrating. But honestly, I see a lot of work on my Explore feed that clearly is a reference to my work. And that's fine for me. Honestly, that's totally fine, because we all started somewhere, right? When we were starting as artists, we didn't have our style right off the bat. We had to, draw inspiration from people tried to emulate different styles that we liked until we found what worked for us. So I don't mind seeing people on my Explore feed, experimenting with my style.
Yeah.
But there was this one instance where somebody like copied everything. Like they took a bunch of my pieces and copied them exactly, like all the elements, all the colors, all the shading was there, and then they were trying to sell them on OpenSea as NFTs.
Oh damn.
That is annoying. That I will not tolerate that.
Right. Yeah, it's very like nuanced, because I feel the same way. Like I've have people post like stuff artwork as well as like videos all the time. They'll repost them like if I make a reel or something, and I don't really care. Like at the end of the day, sometimes I'm like, take it down if they're like this super big account and they didn't tag me or something. But if they do, I'm like, whatever. And then other times I saw this one time, this guy posted my video and then he was like linking to like affiliate links on like the shit I was talking about. So he was like trying to make money off my video.
What?
And then I was like, all right, bro, like I'm cool about this, but like, that's not cool. And I also had someone recently, like sometimes people, I feel the same way. Like I've copied and got inspiration all the time, especially when I was first learning. But sometimes people like copy my stuff like directly, and then they'll like tag me in it like I'm supposed to be like stoked about it or some shit. Like, yo, like this, like check it out or something. And I'm just like, it's kind of weird to like, at least if you're gonna steal, like be low key about it.
I know. Like I'll get DMs from people who literally take my pieces, they screenshot my work, and then they put text over it, or they put their face, or they edit it in some crazy way, and they're like, hey, check out what I did. I'm like, am I supposed to be impressed? No.
Yeah. I also get tagged sometimes just in work that's just like whatever, like as if I'm like some account that's gonna like share it or something, like one of those pages, which I'm not. And I'm always like, cool, like I'll like it if it's cool, or I'll say like, this is cool if I like it. But when it's not that good, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what you want me to do with this, like it's cool, like good luck or whatever. But it's always weird how people, I look back to like on how I feel like I've done dumb shit like that too, like on the internet. And now that I see it happen to me, I'm like, oh, that's annoying. Like I shouldn't have ever done that,
That's fine. I mean, we all start from somewhere.
Right. What was there anything to do in that situation with the one that got stolen was like the heart one, right? Yeah. And it was like, I forgot who it was, but was there anything you can do like in terms of, because was it actually using like a campaign or something you said? Or just on like an Instagram story or something like that?
So her brand, that model, she founded this brand, and they posted, they did like a carousel post, and at the end was the heart artwork that I did. And in their caption, they credited me. They said artwork by Paulina Almira. That's fine, because people do that all the time. But when she herself posted it, she didn't credit me whatsoever. So, I messaged the brand and was like, hey, your founder like posted my artwork without crediting me. And they replied a few days later saying, oh, we're so sorry. We'll tell her when she comes back from, the Cannes Film Festival or wherever. Yeah. And they were like, maybe we can formally commission you. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
It'd be like, it was like the drink thing, right? Like the mixers drink. Or whatever it is.
I don't even know.
I feel like I've seen some of their stuff though. Their art direction, I actually think would cater really strong to you do something for them. So it'd be cool if they, I mean, you could charge a double, for the for the past issues to rectify the situation.
Yeah, they said they wanted to formally commission me, and my manager, I'm lucky that my manager, when all this happened, my manager was like, let me know when somebody steals your art, like somebody as big as this, like we'll reach out. So hopefully that happens and, take their money.
Yeah, for sure. What's some of the, like your favorite client work that you've done so far?
So Nike has been my dream client for the longest time, and I was so happy when they reached out to me. And even though that project wasn't something that they released externally, it was just graphics for their internal ecosystem. They used it as like Zoom backgrounds and whatever. It's still like a stepping stone. At least Nike knows who I am now. So that was definitely a dream client. Who else? I worked.
That's cool too, because they're all the cool people that work there too are like looking at it and everything.
Yeah. I recently worked with Vogue Singapore. They've been a dream client as well. Now I want to do like a US Vogue or Vogue Italia or something like that. And then I have a couple in the pipeline that I'm working on right now that nice. I can't talk about yet, that I'm so excited for. But yeah, I'm so happy that I'm finally working within the realm of clients that I've been dreaming of working with from the beginning. I never thought that I would get here within a year. I'm so grateful. Yeah, and I'm super excited to share.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like especially considering like what you said about like how you kind of got into this, like not by accident, but like as a alternate, like just as a adapting to a bad situation, and now like you've gotten farther than a lot of people that are trying to do that their whole life, you know? So like, it's super, super impressive. And the Vogue stuff that you did, the illustration with the eyes and like the person with the phone, that's very, like dark compared to anything I've ever seen you create in terms of and not dark, conceptually, just in the actual color palette. It's dark.
Yeah.
No, like this fish with the sword in its mouth, more dark, like visually, you know. I just meant it looks almost like you're like a cool version, you know, of like some of the palettes that you work in. Yeah,
their brief explicitly said, number one, the article is about sleep, and number two, it's about sleep and the nighttime and staying up at night. So I wanted to keep it, you know, cool.
Yeah.
And they explicitly said, like, please, nothing too weird. We know you like the weird stuff, but then that's just not our market. Like, Vogue isn't all about that. So I'm like, I get it. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny when clients, and like I get that they have whole teams that figure out, you know, like what works for their demographic, but it's funny when like I have some friends and myself too, like they'll get hired and then it gets to a point where you're like, why did you even ask me to do this? Like it's so far from like they'll say like, don't do this, and I'm like, that's all I do, you know. So I don't know what we're gonna do here. I think sometimes the clients, like they're like, go crazy, you know, and then you go crazy and they're like, oh well, we need like corporate crazy, you know, like that's like
that's
a little too much.
Yeah, I think I'm lucky that Vogue gave me a lot of freedom for this article. Yeah. That was their only limitation, like none of the super weird stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can work with that. I can do that.
Are a lot of the clients you've worked with, like especially some of these bigger ones, are they still usually pretty easy to work with?
They are. Thankfully, like they are pretty easy to work with. And I think that's partly due to the fact that I have a manager that steps in from time to time. So I feel like everything is much more formal and smooth, because I've definitely been in situations prior to getting represented by H+. I was independent, and I've been in situations where the creative director, the artist themselves, and like the other people on the team couldn't get the brief together, couldn't get anything together, and the communication was just all over the place, and no one was like, my submissions they didn't like because they didn't give me the proper brief. When I would follow the brief, they'd be like, this is not what we meant, and it was so difficult. And that was like a massive, I can't talk about it because of NDA, but then that was a massive like everybody knows this company, and I was like, wow, this is the most stressful thing ever. So yeah, being independent definitely has its not so great spots. But yeah, I'm lucky to work with a manager, because a lot of the projects are very smooth sailing.
Okay. Yeah, I that's cool. The thing that I always get frustrated by is when there's no like person at this company that's like calling the shots for like the project. So like everyone has their own little like opinion, and then it just becomes like they want to combine like all these ideas into one thing. And I'm just like, you got to like get a president over there or whatever that's going to deal with this, because like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, you know. Everyone has their own tastes, everyone has their own opinions, that once you start like like they'll be like, oh, it's good, but we got to ask this team and see what they think. And then they add their little notes or whatever. It can get pretty crazy.
Yeah. I definitely prefer to work with one person over like a whole team that's giving all their opinions at once. Like this client that I worked with, they told me what to do. They were like, we want the artist's face on the cover, we want flowers around it, and we want this typography. So I did exactly that. And when I submitted it, they were like, this is not what we want. We have to redo the mood board. And I'm like, you told me to do it. Yeah, the project ended up like not pushing through because of all the confusion on their end. So I'm like, oh.
Right. It's always a bummer because like I've had that situation happen too, and some of my friends will say like, well, that's cool, like you still got paid, right? And I'm like, yeah, but like it sucks, you know, I wanted it to go well and I wanted to make the thing, and I don't want the clients to like think like now they're gonna be like, that guy's like shitty or something, you know, like we don't want to, even though if it's not your fault directly, like at the end of the day, money is important, but the reputation's important too, you know. You want to get like, you want them to tell other people that you were easy to work with and stuff.
Yeah, the worst is when it goes so well, you submit everything and they love it, and at the end they're like, I'm sorry, we're not using it. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, that sucks. I've had that happen so much with doing branding and stuff for like companies that don't exist yet. So like I create the thing and then they don't like, they don't figure out the company, you know, like whatever happens on the business side. Yeah. It's just the business side. Like either like with the pandemic that happened a lot, you know, because people couldn't afford to pursue whatever they were doing, or just whatever will happen. And you're like, cool, I got it finished. But you're like, I really wanted that to exist, you know, so I could like, because it's not as cool to talk about it when it's just conceptually, you know, it's a lot cooler when it's real, you know.
Yeah, it's like pics or it didn't happen.
Right. What you were talking about kind of earlier moving around a lot and stuff, but when you're like in your place that you're at right now, what does your kind of routine look like from like a day-to-day basis?
So when I'm here, it really helps when I'm like in the city where I am now, because the pace is a little faster and everybody's kind of working around me, so that pressures me to work too. So my routine is, I've always been a morning person, so I'm up by like 5:30, 6 in the morning. I make my coffee, I go to the gym, I come back, I eat a little bit, and then I start my day. I answer emails, I do my art, whatever, client work, all that stuff, and then I try to end by 5 or 6. Like I try to recreate a regular working regimen, because I used to do work 24/7. I used to think, you know, I'm a freelancer and all my clients are all over the world, therefore I should also be working when they're working, which made me burn out really fast. Like I would be up taking client calls at 3 a.m, working till 5. Like I didn't have a proper schedule, and it was exhausting. And I'm like, I want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I can't burn out right now. So I try to follow like a pretty set schedule, so 9ish, 9:10 to 5 or 6, and then after that I try to, you know, just step away.
That's good.
Yeah
I feel that way sometimes too. Like I'm very like if I see something, it's really hard for me not to like respond to it, even if it's like not in the time that I should be. But you have to look at it from like a long-term sustainability, because if you do that, now you're the person that's supposed to, like, they think you're going to always do that and always be ready, you know?
Yes.
And you don't want that, because
yeah, for sure.
That's hard. But it is hard working with internationally, because I work with sometimes people in like the UK and Europe, and it feels like I get up, they replied to something I sent them the other day, and then they don't reply to my next thing until the next time they're up in the morning. And it's like, it takes a whole almost like 24 hours, you know, to do like the correspondence. So sometimes I'll reply super late just so I don't have to deal with that, like in between period or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I think it's smarter in the long run not to let them like think that you're readily available 24/7.
Yeah, that doesn't work for anybody.
I'd say I work mostly the same. Like I try to live in the like corporate time just so I'm available. I don't get up till like 8 or 9 though, but what's it called? The thing is though, I feel like once it hits like 2 or 3, like I can't really do like the heavy creative shit. Like I need to get that done from like 10 to 2. The rest of the day I save for like shit that doesn't matter. I could listen to like a music or podcast while I'm doing it, just like emails or like editing, like stuff like that's a lot easier. It seems like there's a certain amount of time you have to do like the actual like design shit, and that shit runs out, you know. It's like a amount of energy you have, and once it's done, it's done. And that's when it gets hard, when it's clients and you have to do something, you know, super late or like long hours, because I feel like at the end of the day, it would almost be more efficient to wait till the next day, because you're using this like weird, like on empty energy to like try to make revisions or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So I try to do all my client work first thing during the day. And then at the end of the day, when I'm like kind of tired, that's when I start my personal piece for the day, because like then nothing's really at risk. Like if it turns out shitty, that's on me. It doesn't affect any client or whatever.
Right. So, I always tell people to do like the most important thing first, because it's you don't want to use that valuable energy. Do you always reserve time to like do personal stuff, or at least try to?
I always try to, because ideally I will be posting something every single day, but that's just, it's not realistic most of the time, because you can't, you can't, things come up, life happens. So it doesn't always work trying to do like my personal art every day, but I do try to dedicate time, like from 2-ish, because I hate the afternoons too, like from 12 to 3, like I hate that time period.
Yeah.
So anytime from there up until 6, maybe sometimes I even go till midnight when I really want to push myself to finish my personal piece. But yeah, wait, what was your question again? I think
I think you said like you always try to make time for that.
I do.
Do you think that you would maybe I don't know if it's subconscious or deliberate, but do you think that if you weren't going to be putting stuff into the world, that you would feel as much pressure to do it every day? Do you think the internet, like the social media, drives the creation, or you're doing it anyway and the social media is like just the you know, vehicle for it to travel or whatever?
I would be lying through my teeth if I said that social media had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, you know, this is my livelihood. This is how I, you know, feed myself. This is how I buy myself the things that I want. So the money definitely is one of the biggest things that pushes me to do what I do. But also at the same time, I love it. I wouldn't be putting in these hours if, you know, I didn't actually love what I do. So yeah, I think it's a healthy balance. Like it's a privileged position to be able to say, this is my passion and this is what keeps me alive as well. So
yeah, it's really cool. It's I'm very grateful of that, and then I also feel the other way though. Like sometimes I've spoken about this before. Like it's a weird feeling because you want to do this stuff anyway, but then you also do it like for money and like have to if you have like a client, and sometimes it feels like you're like trying to finish this work that you're doing, let's say design work, so you can do other design work that you'd like rather do, even though it's all kind of the same. It's different, you know, when it's personal or like art, I guess we could say, it feels a lot more like hobby-esque and like the fun stuff. But then when that becomes like real life and you're getting paid like real good money to do it, it's a weird feeling. Like, you know, I think I've used this analogy before, but like a lot of people that work like blue collar jobs, right? They don't work like plumbing all day and then get home and like work on their own sink and like just practice, you know, like it's a lot different because, your hobby is your career. And a lot of people aren't in that position unless they're like in a creative field, I think.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird balance to keep too, because on one hand, I want to keep, you know, my client work and my business side separate from my personal life. But at the same time, this is what I'm passionate about. This is who I am. This is my life. So where do I find that balance? But yeah, I don't know. I still don't know. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah. Because I think when you work as an employee too, it's a lot easier to separate the like work life. Like when I was at a job, I didn't think about like, I didn't ever work on something at midnight for the company. Like fuck them, you know, like I'm not going to do that.
That's true.
But like your own shit, you'll get inspired like that sometimes and do something super late or whatever. But so yeah, I guess like sometimes I don't feel like complaining about it is kind of like annoying, you know, because it's a situation that's really cool, you know, and like I'm very grateful of it. But just because it's cool, it doesn't mean there's not things wrong with it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like at the end of the day, people who work corporate jobs, they don't think about their jobs when they get home. But like this is what we do 24/7 for fun and for money. So
Exactly. What one of the last things I wanted to ask you is you kind of have a unique story in the way that you kind of transitioned at one point, but since I would consider you now mainly as like a digital artist and illustrator, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone when they are first starting out in this field?
So this is the piece of advice that I think it's pretty common advice, but then you need to keep telling yourself over and over, do not take clients, try to avoid taking clients that don't want to pay you what your rate is or can't afford to pay you what you're asking for, because then it takes time away from you being able to get clients that will actually pay you what your actual rate is or what your work is worth. Because I understand that not everybody is in a position to say no to projects. I definitely wasn't when I was starting. I needed work, I needed the money. So there were times when I would take on projects that didn't pay like what I was asking for because, I just needed something at the time. But then the more you practice being firm about your rate and saying no to projects that don't meet that standard, the more you open yourself up to the opportunities that align with your style, with your actual rate, and the more you grow. Because if you stay in that pool working with clients that don't value your work, you'll never get out of it. So as much as possible, I advocate for being really firm with your rate and trying your best to open yourself up to the better opportunities and saying no to the ones that don't serve you. Also, another piece of advice is do not charge hourly. Do not charge hourly rates, because that puts you at a massive disadvantage.
Yeah.
If I can do a piece, like a beautiful piece, in 1 hour, are you saying you're only gonna pay me for 1 hour of work? Like if let's say my rate was $100 an hour and I did a really good, gorgeous piece in an hour, you're only gonna pay me $100 for that. Whereas if I dragged it out for 10, then you'd pay me 1,000. That makes no sense. Like if I can do something really quickly, if I learn to do my art and perfect my craft and do it fast, are you saying that I don't deserve to get paid more for that? It makes no sense. I've never
it punishes
charged
efficiency for sure.
So yeah, I think those are my two most practical pieces of advice for people starting. Also, post every day, post as consistently as possible, and don't let other people try to tell you what style you should be pursuing, or don't let others influence the kind of work you want to make.
Yeah, those are great. If you guys want to check out Paulina's work, Paulina Almira, is that it? Almira on Instagram, and she's got on Twitter and all that stuff. You can hire her through H Plus Creative or herself. And thank you again for coming on. It was really cool talking to you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Bye.